Hello everybody, my name is Dee and welcome to Books and Quirks. Today is Friday, so it is time for a Friday Reads. So my buddy read has finally finished, so the first book that I completed this week, or one of the books I should say, not the first, one of the books I completed this past week was The Light of All That Falls by James Islington. Now, The Light of All That Falls is the third book in a fantasy trilogy. The first book is The Shadow of What Was Lost. This was an excellent ending, in my opinion. I absolutely loved it. The third book, all of these books are pretty chunky. Like this one is over 700 pages. The last book was over 900, no, right under 900 pages. So it took us 2.5 weeks to finish the buddy read. We were reading about, 50 pages a day or, sometimes it was a little bit less, sometimes it was a little bit more. And it was just really good. So this book follows a very complex fantasy world. It follows three main characters, or at least in the first book, just to give you a little bit of synopsis. I won't go into everything, but it follows three main characters, Davian, Wur, and Ashelia. Asha is what they call her. They are known as the Gifted. They have these powers, and they're very looked down upon in society as well, due to a war that was fought long ago, where they were, once upon a time they were very powerful, and now they're less so. So they kind of have to keep their status on the down low. But Asha, Wur, and Davian in the beginning of the first book are in a school for the gifted. They're taught by augurs, who are these like godlike creatures who are also stripped of their power due to a war long ago. One day, someone decides to kill all of the students, and these three students survive the massacre. And basically, the entire book gets more complex as it goes on. There are different like worlds within the main world. I don't know how else to describe it. And they're basically trying to survive, and they come upon the fourth main character, whose name is Caden. He wakes up in a bloody mess, basically has no idea who he is, has no memories of his past, and he's also very connected to everything that's happening. And so it says, Davian suffers the consequences of a war lost before he was even born. He discovers that he holds the forbidden power of the augurs, and that sets into motion a chain of events that basically it's them trying to save the world as well as trying to keep themselves alive also. I really love the story. I can't describe it in a way that does it justice. It's equated to the Wheel of Time series, so if you like the Wheel of Time series, then I think you would really enjoy this series as well. The next book that I finished, that I told you about during my last video, was Fallen, which is the first book in a YA series. It's called the Guardian trilogy, and the first book is Fallen. It follows a young woman. The young woman is named Maggie, and she has the ability to talk to the dead. So every night when she goes to sleep, she basically enters the afterlife or heaven or whatever you want to call it. She has the ability to relay messages to those that have passed on. And she even does this as a little side business. She lives in New Orleans. She's moved around her whole life, but in the beginning of the first book, Fallen, she moves to New Orleans, and this is the first time she's going to stay in one place during a significant amount of time. And she sets up a booth in the French Quarter district I think it's called. I'm not very familiar with New Orleans, so excuse my ignorance when it comes to this stuff. Um, but she sets up a little booth, and basically this is the service that she provides. People can come up to her and pay her, and they can give her a message that they want passed on to their loved one. She can go pass on that message, and then she brings back proof, basically something maybe that that person would only know, as proof that she actually relayed the message. It's really interesting. I gave this book 3 stars. Maggie is constantly doesn't realize at first that she is in danger for some reason. I won't give you any spoilers. So for some reason, there are people that are trying to kill her, basically. And she is rescued by a boy named Iran, and she finds out that he is kind of her guardian. And they're connected in a way that she is not aware of at the beginning of the book, and you find that out as you go on. And it's really interesting. I gave it 3 stars only because I didn't feel like these books are very short. They're right under 300 pages. They're not very long at all. So I didn't feel like the world was very fleshed out. And I felt like things were going a little bit too fast. So that's the only reason why I gave it 3 stars. I mean, it was just kind of an okay read, but it was enough of an okay read that I want to continue on in the series. So I did start the second book in the series, which is Eternity. That's the second book in the Guardian trilogy. And we'll see how I like this one. So yeah, I really was intrigued by the ending of the first book, so I really want to see what happens with these characters. So I'm reading Eternity now. So the next book that I'll be reading this week, and I'm actually not starting it till the middle of the week, is Age of Swords by Michael J. Sullivan. So this is the second book in the Legends of the First Empire series. There are like 5 books in the series, I think. I think I read. So book 1 was The Age of Myth, and I read this November, maybe? I think it was. It was a couple months ago at least. And I read this with Cheryl of Sierra Flames Fan, so we absolutely loved this book, and we want to continue to go on. So we will be starting Age of Swords, which is the second book, and basically this is another fantasy world, high fantasy. It follows these beings called Frey. Frey are kind of like godlike creatures. They are immortal, supposedly. Supposedly they're immortal. And they can kind of wield magic. Well, in the beginning of the first book, Age of Myth, Wraith is just, someone from the village. He's out with his father. He's hunting in the Forbidden Lands. There's kind of a border between the worlds of the Frey and the humans. And he ventures over into the world of the Frey, and they kill an animal. And one of these godlike creatures, one of the Frey, comes upon them and kind of says, we'll kill you. You're infringing upon our land. And Wraith, with the help of a slave, kills the god. So he is now known as the God Killer. These beings that are supposedly immortal, was now killed. So what is this going to mean for all of the people that are, subject to the Frey? So Wraith and the slave are now on the run. They come upon a village where they meet Suri, who is a young seer, and Persephone, who, kind of is the leader of her people. And yeah, it was really good. I loved these characters so much, so I cannot wait to start Age of Swords and get back into this world. I'm so glad that we decided to give this series a go, because I loved the first book, like I said, and I'm sure I will love the second book. So I will be reading this with Cheryl of Sierra Flames Fan, and cannot wait to get into it. The only other book that I think I'm going to start this week, because I kind of have been itching to start it, I haven't yet started it, but I think I'm going to start it this weekend, is The Girl Who Wrote Loneliness by Kyung Suk Shin. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This is a Korean book about a person. I think it takes place in the past. It's part autobiographical. My gosh, I can never say that word. Um, and it follows a teenaged girl in Seoul who is forced to work. She's basically orphaned and forced to work at a factory, and she has dreams of becoming a writer. I really loved the Asian fiction that I read last year. It was also kind of in that autobiographical format. It was called Pachinko. Was the first book that I read in this kind of category, and I loved it so much. So I picked this book up, and I hope to love it just as much. It is a like prize winner. It says an Asian literary prize winner and a New York Times bestseller. And yeah, so I think it's part autobiographical, um, part fiction. I'm not quite sure. Based on the blurb on the back, it's hard to tell. But I really hope to start this, and hopefully I love it. And I'll let you know more once I get into it. So that is all I have for you. Oh, I also finished two more books in the Barbarian series, that alien romance series that I told you about. I feel so silly, but there's something about these books that I love. I Each book follows a different couple, alien human mix. There were a couple of books in the series that I skipped because I wasn't that fond of those characters, but I did read two more Barbarians. So I had to actually look up the title of those two books because I couldn't remember the name of the second one. So it was Barbarian Lady and Barbarian Rescue. My cat touched the camera, sorry about that. So yes, so Barbarian Lady and Barbarian Rescue. So I don't know what it is about this series. It's so silly, it's ridiculous, but I don't know, it's just so enjoyable as well. And yeah, so I finished those as well. But those are short little, books that I finish in one night. But that is all I have for you. That's everything I read, everything that I'm currently reading. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. It is absolutely gorgeous today. It's cold, but sunny. So I hope that it is where you are, and spring is coming soon. I will talk to you all very, very soon.